Welcome to the Waseca Small Town Big Stories podcast, brought to you by Bird's Eye Foods and Itron. I'm your host, Ann Fitch, the Executive Director of the Waseca Area Chamber of Commerce, where we promote business and enhance community. Today, I'm joined at the Suburban Furniture Table by Al Doering from the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute. Welcome, Al.
Thank you, Ann, and thanks for having us today.
Absolutely. I was pretty impressed that I actually got out the real words for AURI, because I always just call it AURI.
And you know what, Ann, everybody does call us AURI, and it's better. I did not name our institution. There's way too many syllables. I think there's 13. But what it does is, we were started over 30 years ago, and I wasn't responsible for naming us. But it does give you an idea of what we do there. Our focus is agriculture. We do research, but we could add so much more to that title that we can get into on what do we do there.
Yeah, first of all, where are you guys located? Because I bet there's a lot of people, even in Waseca, that, first of all, don't know you exist, who you're affiliated with, where you're located, what goes on out there, who works there. The AURI is a bit of a mystery to a lot of people, even if you are in the agriculture sector. Like, where are you guys located? What goes on out there, Al?
Oh, and I love the question because, hopefully for us, we want people to be aware of us and what we do, and the clients we've worked with do know us. But as far as the community, when I knew I was coming out here, I was thinking, okay, what would you what would you focus on? And I was thinking the Wizard of Oz. So everybody that has seen the Wizard of Oz, and don't look what's behind the
curtain over there.
The curtain. And today, that's what I wanted to do, kind of show you or tell you a little bit about what goes on behind the curtain. So we are located at the U of M, the Annex building. Mm-hmm. So we're not on the main campus, the main research area.
So not like at S-Rock.
Not at S-Rock, but basically across from the prison. And everybody that drives by will see a U of M sign and an AURI sign. So we are just located on the outskirts of town there. And in Waseca, I'll back up. First, AURI, our corporate headquarters, is up in Crookston, Minnesota. But we have 4 different locations. We have Crookston, and then we have offices up on the U of M campus. We have an analytical and a food science lab in Marshall, Minnesota. So when we need analytical work done, or when people think of the test tube work done, that all goes to Marshall. And then in Waseca, we have our co-products pilot lab, which we are now calling the bioindustrial lab, because we support so many entities and businesses in the bioindustrial area. And
Al, tell me what bioindustrial area means.
Bioindustrial is just a broad term. So to give you an example, everything from ethanol plants, biodiesel plants, or it could be an entrepreneur. We do a lot of stuff with helping companies develop new fertilizers from agricultural feedstocks. We actually even have a foods pilot lab that doesn't fit under the term bioindustrial, but I got to throw that in there.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of egg processing and production.
And so you're going to do research for different small companies and large companies.
Yep. So what we do, and the companies that we support just range tremendously in size. There's a very large companies, such as an ethanol plant, where we'll assist them to either look at new drying technologies for their distillers grains. That's something we're doing right now. Or there may be a company collaborating with an ethanol plant looking at, hey, can you take the dried distillers grain, which is a byproduct, and extract greater value molecules out of that or chemicals out of that can be used for a higher value use. So rather than just producing the ethanol, this is just an easy example, you have the byproduct, which is distiller's grain, which is a great livestock feed, protein, and energy source. But even within that, there are chemicals that can be used and marketed at a much higher value. So those are some of the things we're working on. And that goes for so many of the agricultural commodities, and people have no idea what we're doing there.
Thank goodness you know what you're doing there.
Oh, and it's fun. What I always share, it's always fun to give a tour. and you can show people that are coming through the office or coming through the lab different product examples that you've worked on, where if you walk into Target or Petco or PetSmart, you can just start pointing at those products. Hey, we helped develop that and that and that, and people would have no idea that's going on in Waseca.
Can you give us some examples of products that you've worked on that you're able to share? Because I'm sure there is some confidentiality,
Yep.
Especially when you're in process of helping these businesses. But those that you've already helped and are already on market or in market, which products can you talk about that you've helped develop?
Well, there's a few of them. And one of the ones that I just came across on a store shelf the other day, it's called High Island Organics. It's a fertilizer, and we helped them develop a whole line of various fertilizers, whether it's for your lawn, whether it's for fruit and vegetables, garden production, or your flowers, if it's a flower pot. And this group is out of Winthrop, Minnesota. They're a poultry laying facility, and they wanted to add value to the poultry manure, the poultry litter. Well, it's high in nitrogen, it's high in potassium, phosphorus, it has all the good stuff for a litter. So we worked with different formulas to develop new fertilizers, and then in the lab, how do you dry it? How do you pellet it? How do you crumble it? What are all the steps involved to produce this product, to get it in a bag and on the store shelf? So the other day my wife and I were shopping for some different shrubs and stuff around our house, went into a landscape facility, and here sits their bags being marketed at that facility near Mankato. So those are the fun things to see. Another one that's a little more bizarre is, I'll give you a big range, Ann.
Yeah, please do.
Is cat litters. So if anybody wants to know how to make synthetic cat urine, we know. We have the answer, Ann.
Oh my gosh, let me get pen and paper.
Yeah, I'm sure you want to write that down. But for the past 30 years, we've worked with a company out of Detroit Lakes, and their vision was to develop a cat litter that wasn't clay-based, so you don't have the silica, you don't have the dust, low tracking, and then highly absorbent. So we have worked with them testing litter made from wheat and wheat byproducts for years, and you'll see them if you go into Target, Pet Expo. A lot of their markets are on the East Coast and West Coast, but they are up in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. They continue to grow, add on to their plant and their facility, and those are the success stories we like to see. And then one more, Ann, I got to share with you.
Yeah.
There's a large feed company, feed specialty company out of the Twin Cities. They had worked on a bypass amino acid additive. So this is for dairy cattle that they had worked on for 2 years. Finally, we sat down and worked with them, and we helped them develop their product in probably 4 to 6 months. And within a year, they were feeding that product to, what did they share with me? Over 100,000 dairy cows per day. So it's fun to help companies develop new products and then see them succeed. So I always say we're one of the best stimulus packages around that people don't know about. And the way we're structured, Ann, is to keep everything even. If you are a larger company, so we do have a fee for our services, but if you're a company making over $5 million, obviously you're going to pay a different price than, say, an entrepreneur with a new idea that comes to us. So we've got a pricing structure just to keep it even. So a new startup company is very hard, and it takes a lot of money to get started. Those individuals will actually pay less for our lab services than, let's say, someone that's well established making a couple million a year. So that's one way AURI keeps the projects balanced and even, depending on your size.
So really, it is attainable for a new entrepreneur to take advantage of your services.
Very much so. And if I could say a ratio of how many of the companies do we work with are established versus entrepreneurs, I think it depends on the area of your focus. So when you're dealing with the bioindustrial side, I'd probably say 70% of our clients are established companies already. 30 are entrepreneurs that had an idea, and we're helping them develop that idea. We're showing them what processes they need to produce that product and then get them into the marketplace. Where food on the other side, I'd say that's about switch. Probably 70 to 80% of our clients are entrepreneurs. So they either need help with developing a nutritional label before a product can go on the store shelf, or they need help identifying where is a commercial kitchen? Where can I produce our product at a larger scale so then it can go onto a retail shelf? So it kind of depends on what the focus is.
Now, I have a callback question with that, with the cat litter. So that was their product, was developing the cat litter. So did you have to research in the cat litter and then also come up with that synthetic urine in researching how to make their cat litter better as well?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Number one, they had the idea, and we're on the patent with them. And by the way, not everything is patented. A lot of people assume that. A lot of stuff is just kept trade secret, so it's never put out there to the public. But they had the idea. We helped them develop the litter formula. And the reason we had to develop the liquid for testing is because you wanted a material. I didn't want to keep a bunch of cats in the pilot lab, and that was the main reason.
Absolutely not.
But you had to develop a liquid that simulated cat urine, so it had to have the same ammonia content, same salt content, and even same temperature. So you could test that litter to see how hard does it clump. What is the absorbency? Can it absorb 100% of its weight in liquid or in water, or can it do 150%? And that's how you compare that product and the performance compared to clay litters or other litters. But what's unique about this one too, not only the performance, but the enzymes that are in the product, they help control ammonia. So ammonia just doesn't go away. You can either hold it and bind it up for a while, or it goes to atmosphere real quickly. So those are all things that, believe it or not, have to be considered. And plus that litter is septic system safe. They've done a lot of testing on that, where it's biodegradable. Where your clay litters, you can't put down your septic system or flush it down the toilet, where these you actually could, because they are organic, they're grain-based, and they will degrade.
You know, Al, I'm not a cat fan. I'm actually afraid of cats, but this is the most interested I've been in cats probably my entire life, just in this last couple minutes.
So you know what, at home I don't have a lot, I can admit, we don't have cats, but boy, when it comes to dealing with what goes on because you own a cat, yeah, we've got companies that are addressing those issues, and the list goes on. You know, if we're on the waste side, Ann, I gotta lead this another direction. Another thing
Did you say waste side?
Waste.
Oh boy. Okay, here we go.
Manure.
Yeah. Okay, this is what we're gonna get into.
Another thing that we're doing here in Waseca that people may not be aware of is a lot of research with anaerobic digestion. So at the bioindustrial lab, we actually have two 1,200-gallon anaerobic digestion tanks. So what we do is we're working with companies that are looking at building plants in Minnesota to put anaerobic digesters here. And the whole point behind that and the research we're conducting is, here's an example. If you take dairy manure, cattle manure, run it through an anaerobic digester, how much methane can you get from that manure, or how much can you generate? So we test the volume going in, we test the gas coming out, because what the goal is now, everybody is focused on renewable energy sources, trying to get away from fossil fuels. So it's a way to add value to a livestock waste product. And I hate to call it waste because the fertilizer value is always there. But can we capture more value? So by running it through a digester, you capture the methane, you can clean up that gas, you put it in your natural gas pipeline, call it natural gas. Now everybody's happy, and they're heating their homes with it, they're cooking with it, and you still have the liquid fraction, which has your nitrogen, some potassium, and phosphorus, and you can still use that for fertilizer. And the list goes on, because then we're also doing research to look at how can you capture that fertilizer out of the liquid stream, so now it's a solid that you can distribute more efficiently.
Now, is that in the other building that you guys
It is. We've actually outgrew the facility we're in a little bit. That's a good problem. But as we got in the anaerobic digester, as we added equipment to process hemp fibers, flax fibers, did work in that area. We added an inspected food grade facility. We just needed more room, so we did add another facility. So we've got the pilot lab between two places right now, and hopefully down the road we can bring it together, but it works.
Yeah, because I think I've smelled the your manure
No,
research. I feel like there was, because I've been on a couple tours of your facility, and there's always an aroma to the research out at AURI.
It is, Ann. And one thing, and with the employees that we have out there, Cameron and Abel and the whole staff, one thing we always joke about is you almost feel sorry for them, because us being a pilot lab, so don't think of your test tube labs and us walking around with white coats. We have hammer mills, we have pellet mills, we have digesters, because we're helping to show clients and industries how to develop new products. So some days it may be manure coming into the lab, some days it may be fish waste coming into the lab, so there's always different aromas around our office. So that's one of the downsides, but our job is, how do you take that waste that's a little smelly and add value to it?
Yep, and you guys are doing just that.
That's our focus.
You said that some of the products that you work on just remain trade secrets.
Yep.
So there's research you do that will never ever be brought to market.
It'll be brought to market. What won't be shared is what's going into that product. And a good example of that is we've got a project right now we can talk about. It's called Stable Feeds. They're out of Casa, Minnesota. It's a woman-owned business, Mary Hartman. She is amazing, very knowledgeable on horses. And I remember about 3-4 years ago, she came to me with an idea of a new horse feed. And some of my past is livestock nutrition, ration formulation. So I was sitting here listening to her and the ingredients she wanted to use in this horse feed. And it's not your traditional oats and maybe molasses and some vitamins and minerals. Very unique feeds that all have a specific, ingredients going into this feed that all have a specific purpose. And the research she has done, the editorials and the comments from people that have used her product, it's incredible what it has done for horses. I think she shared with me just lately, she's actually feeding some Olympic horses now, and she continues to grow. So the reason I went here is that's a example where the list of ingredients that she's using, it'll be very broad on on the ingredient label, because that is her secret.
Okay, so not trade secret that they're buried and not coming to market. Trade secret is that we're not going to know exactly what's in there.
Right, because oftentimes when you do patent something, you're disclosing what is going into it, and people can figure it out. It's like the old Coca-Cola recipe. That was never patented. It was just kept their trade secret. So we run into a lot of that with product formulation.
But you guys know what's in there.
We know the secret. I told you, Ann, we know the secret behind the curtain.
Gosh. You guys should have your sidewalk being a yellow brick road. You really should.
There you go.
Gosh.
What's fun, Ann, is so many different projects. We had one, this is an older project, where a group came to us, and one of the issues that the swine industry was seeing is when you farrow or have baby pigs or in the nursery barn, everybody was using rubber mats. And they would disinfect it, they would power wash them, but they were still having issues with disease, PRRS, E. coli, being carried over to the next litter. So a group came to us and said, Al or AURI, how can we make a biodegradable mat? So we worked with them to develop a mat that would biodegrade. It's made of corn stover. It only had to last 16 to 21 days. If the pig chewed on it, whether it's a baby pig or nursery pig, it didn't matter. It was corn stover. If it went into the hog pit, it wouldn't matter. It was corn stover and it was small fragments. So we lined them up with a company in Minnesota that added a whole production line to make these mats. They added employees, the processing, the production. They were sourcing corn stover from Minnesota. They started making these mats, and within, what was it, a year or two, they had sold their first 1 million mats. And that is a success. And the cool thing about the mats is once they're used, once they're dirty, you pull them out, you throw them on a compost pile, they compost, degrade, and you haul them out to the field.
Oh my gosh.
So those are the projects you like to see develop, at least out of our lab, more of them.
Yeah, what a positive environmental impact too.
It is.
Now, I think the very first time I ever heard you speak, you mentioned two words together that I had not heard together, and those were the words food glue.
And
I really want to hear you talk about food glue.
We better be careful talking about food glue. But this was before I was with AURI, but just to give the listeners an idea of AURI, what we do, who we support. Years ago, we worked with a company.
And I've heard chefs talk about food glue too.
Yeah.
Since then.
And I don't think we can say the company name.
And that's okay if you
I'll
can.
avoid it. People will figure it out.
Yeah.
But what AURI did is we helped with this concept where if you have these very tender pieces of meat scraps, how do you put them back together? They're tender, they're fine.
What kind of cuts would they come from, Al?
So if it was beef scraps or beef trimmings, so if you can glue them together and put them in the shape of a steak or a burger or something like that, there is a market for that. So an old project years ago did help develop some glue.
So AURI developed food glue.
Yep.
And since you had said this was probably 8 years ago, I bet 7, 8 years ago, I heard you speak about this project, and since then I've heard several chefs on television talk about food glue, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's actually like a real thing. It's not just this company.
Yeah, collagens are used to glue things back together. Here's another one, Ann, I got to throw out there. Because we live in a rural area, everybody is, at least if you're involved in agriculture or spraying chemicals, there is a surfactant called Preference by Cenex Land O'Lakes. Years ago, and anybody that sprays chemical, they probably have dumped in Preference or something similar to it. But years ago, AURI supported Cenex Land O'Lakes in developing the spray adjuvant. And what it does is it makes the chemical adhere to the weeds better to get better weed control. And that is a product that has lasted well over 20 years, and it's still out there in the market. And they continue to tweak it and improve it, but the whole idea and the theory and a core ingredient of that was soybean oil. That's why AURI was working with it, and it's still in the marketplace today.
You guys have had some big wins over the years.
There are. And that's what we want to see, but mainly to emphasize that we're here to help anyone at any level. So if you have an idea related to agriculture or a food product and you want help either with the formulation, the development, developing a nutritional label, or even a feed label so you can move it into that marketplace, we're here to help you. If you are interested, or if you're a current company and you're producing a product and you're just not as efficient as you could be in the process of it, we do a lot of work with process development. So helping companies either identify, hey, you need to grind that product finer or leave it larger, or when you're pelleting a product, you're using the wrong pellet die to make that pellet, or you need more steam or less water. We're here to help with that, and the list goes on.
I think when people listen to this, they're going to be very surprised at the amount of high-level research that goes on in our community here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing things, and every project that you've talked about, like I said, just has a huge positive impact to the environment.
It does, and we continue to see more and more of that. Some of the projects focused on environment. Some of the projects that we're collaborating with the University of Minnesota with is their Forever Green project. So what they're doing there is they're really focused on identifying oilseed crops or other crops that can stay on the landscape all year long. And I got to give some examples, Ann.
Yeah.
So they vary. So number one, you have Kernza. So that's intermediate wheatgrass. Kernza is actually a trade name. So that's envisioned like miniature wheat. So this stuff is a perennial. So it grows year after year after year. So you don't have to till the soil, re-sow it, add fertilizer. It may require fertilizer, but you don't have all the production steps. So we're doing a lot with Kernza right now. We're working with RAR Malting, looking at, okay, if you malt this Kernza, how does that affect the flavor of beers or if it's used in whiskey? I know there's companies using Kernza in breakfast foods just because of the low carbon footprint that it has. So that's one that's one of the products that the university and their Forever Green program is working on, but we work with how do we help develop that supply chain. Two other examples is yellow or a winter camelina and yellow pennycress. So if we have farmers listening to this podcast, they're going to say, pennycress, hold it, because that was always considered a weed.
Yeah.
This is controlled. So these are two oil seeds. So think of your soybeans. And by the way, remember that soybeans, even though we're so used to seeing soybeans in the field around us, you know, that was a new crop back in the 50s. So we're always looking for something new. But the yellow pennycress and the winter camelina, these are oil seeds that can be planted in the fall. They grow, they go dormant over the winter, they continue growing in the spring. You can harvest the oil seed early spring because that's when they mature, and you still have time to either interseed a corn crop into it or soybeans into it, preferably corn. But then it's almost like third crop, you know, having for sure a second crop. Because then you can take these oil seeds, and that's what AURI is doing. At our facility, we have a food-grade oil press or a non-food grade press where we press out that oil, look at, hey, can it be used for food applications? Can it be used to make biodiesel or fuels, bio-based fuels? So you have the oil side, but then you also have the meal side.
Yeah.
So we're evaluating that. What is the crude protein? How much energy does it have? How will it perform as a protein supplement for livestock? So these are all things that are going on. You know, and the focus behind all of that is how do we look at crops or processes that lower our carbon footprint in the environment? And that goes back to anaerobic digestion. You know, can we take this manure, capture the methane out of it, put it in a pipeline to use to heat your homes, and then just take the nutrients from what's left, recycle that, and use it as fertilizer to grow the next crop?
AURI is doing some incredibly important work out there. Holy cow.
It's fun. And, you know, I can say when people ask me, well, what do you do, Al? What do you do at your job? It's kind of hard because it's like, what
you should just give them the link to this podcast, Al.
But there's so many people involved within AURI. We have our food scientists, we have our microbiologists, we have our chemists, and it truly takes a network. And you know where I am at that totem pole, on the totem pole, because I'm at the bottom end, because we talked about where does the smelly stuff come. So we have the office where we get the manure and the fish waste. And I'm joking when I say that. I mean it very well. But our goal is, how do you take these products and add value to them?
Yeah, it's amazing. And like I said, I've been on, I think, 3 tours out there, and you get so amped up on every tour. And I love the passion in your eyes and your voice whenever you're talking about the research that you're doing out there, the products that you're developing. I love that about Al Doering out at AURI.
Well, and it's fun because, and that's thanks to the clients, that's thanks to who we work with and that who come to us. But, you know, the research going on in hops, you know, we had 130 hops growers in the state. I don't know what we have now, but being able to work with that group, you know, as the hemp industry grows, that one's growing rapidly in the state that a lot of my coworkers are really emphasizing on, and it just continues. There's so many new opportunities that are still developing. So even though at times the ag industry may look like it's, hey, a mature industry, you know what? Just keep watching, because in the next 10 years, we may be still growing corn, but keep in mind that, you know, what's not being used for livestock feed or energy, or that's going into ethanol, maybe that ethanol is the next carrier for hydrogen to fuel hydrogen cars. I mean, there's so much technology yet to be developed, and that's actually going on right now.
Interesting. I like to know what's going to happen in the future. I think your insight is very interesting.
Oh, and I wish I had a crystal ball too. But what's fun about AURI is you do get to see people's ideas. And one thing I should share, Ann, is that when people come to AURI with an idea, it stays their idea. So that intellectual property belongs to them. That's a key thing to share. The only time AURI would ever patent a product is if it's something we developed internally. But if, like for the compostomats that I talked about for the baby pigs, that idea belonged to the client. We helped them develop it. We helped them identify who could do the production or the processing, but that was their idea. So any patent work they did is theirs. Even the cat litter, we were on it because we helped with the processing and the development, but it was their idea, so that patent belongs to them.
How did you get to AURI, Al? How did you end up there? You're just a kid from Good Thunder.
Yeah, well, you know, we farm near Good Thunder, south of Mankato, and when I started out, you know, I went to South Dakota State, so I had to jump the border a little bit.
Sure.
And my background is ag extension, animal science. So I started working with farmland industry, and really my main work was animal nutrition, livestock nutrition. So I did that for 8 or 9 years. And then DeKalb Genetics, a little company called DeKalb, came to Mankato. And that was fun. I jumped ship then, and because DeKalb had opened up a soybean research plant in Mankato, I'm going to date myself. So that was 98 and 99. So I jumped over to them and focused on soybean genetic research. And what was fun about that is right when the Roundup Ready soybeans were coming out. So in 98, you know, 80% of your soybean crosses were conventional. Maybe 20% were the Roundup Ready soybeans that we hear about. By 99, that
You better clarify Roundup Ready for the non-ag folks.
Yep. So Roundup Ready soybeans are non-GMO or GMO soybeans. Those were soybeans that had a gene or a trait in it, so you could spray Roundup, which is a herbicide that normally would kill all weeds, all grasses. You could spray that on the soybeans. The soybean would live, but it killed everything. It killed all the weeds and all the grass within the field.
Had Roundup in the seed already.
Not Roundup, but it was resistant to the active ingredient within Roundup. And now there's so many more chemicals that these soybeans are resistant to as these plant breeders continue to improve in that area. So anyway, long story short, I was with DeKalb until Monsanto bought them, which was in, well, the end of 99, 2000, and then they moved that research facility up to Fargo. Well, even though our main office is up in Crookston, and I like the guys up north, but, with the farm, I was not going to be moving to Fargo.
Right.
And there was an opening for a position at AURI in Waseca, and I didn't know what AURI was. I applied, and boy, 20-some years later, I'm still here, still driving to Waseca every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about the experience of just working in Waseca.
Great. Even though I don't live here, what's so fun about Waseca, after being here over 20 years, just the people within the community that you build relationships with, and I love to do call outs to a lot of them, and I won't do it, but whether it's...
You do that. Call them out right now, right today.
Well, you have Teshes. If you have any car issues, you have Teshes to go to. Okay, now we need some bulk kerosene for the pilot lab. Where are we going to go to? Oh, we're going to go to Box. They have that. We have a charge account at ACE, and anything we need for lab repairs, hardware, we have ACE and Baumgars in town. So you run there. If you're getting ready to host some people and you need different materials, you have Walmart. I mean, and then condense. Whenever I need, say, oats to flush out a dye, or these odd ingredients, you have condense nearby. And then the ethanol plants around us, they have been so supportive. When we've done research looking at, can you feed corn solubles from an ethanol plant to livestock? Well, number one, we have the University of Minnesota and their swine facility here, so that's great for doing swine research. But then you've got Guardian Energy right next door to pick up product to support these efforts or this research. You have Alcorn in Claremont. It's just a nice network, and plus every day I get to drive through the Waseca countryside, so I can tell you how the crops are doing, if we need rain, and it's just fun.
Well, good. I think I hope that everyone listening has now gotten a better understanding of what AURI is in our community, and they should be really proud and thankful that the facility is here, because the amount of science and research that's happening out there is really, really mind-blowing. And I hope that it gives the students of our community something to aspire towards, because the high-tech jobs that are out there are a great way to make a living in this community. And there's not a tremendous amount of research jobs in this community, but they are here.
And that's a key thing, Ann, and thank you for having us. But what you mentioned, I just want to repeat it. For these young people living in rural America or rural areas like Waseca, so many times we feel like we're losing them to the larger cities because of job opportunities. But take a look at the ag industry, ag business.
Yes.
There is so much new development going on, whether it's in research, whether it's in sales. A lot of great opportunities if you have an interest in agriculture, and you don't need to be from the farm. And we see that all the time. The food industry. But for all these young people, boy, take a look at what's out there.
Yeah, and Waseca is abundant with ag-related jobs. Holy cow.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, Al, what can the community do to be more aware of all the cool things that are going on out there?
What I would say is I want people to feel like our doors are always open. They may drive by and see the AURI sign and scratch their head and wonder what's going on out there. But if you have an idea, whether it's related to food or agriculture or an ag commodity, boy, feel free to give us a call, stop in, go on our website, auri.org. Don't do .com. I think that's a car wax, Ann. So you'll be going down the wrong path.
.org, AURI.org.
Yep. And feel free to connect with us.
Yeah, so call them up and ask them questions. They'll answer them.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here, Al. This was really informative. Seriously, this was cool.
Thank you.
I love hearing about what's going on out there. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Birdseye and Itron. Without them, it would not be possible to tell the big stories of our small town. Thank you to our production team, Small Town Media and Production. Join us next time for another episode of Waseca Small Town Big Stories.